So after you got your mud laid down on your panel, then you go ahead and just sand it all off.
Oh yeah!
For real, you just sand it until it's smooth. It's that simple. All right, it's been a good video. After you put especially if you're putting a heavy layer of filler on something like this, that's over a big area, don't be afraid to use a DA sander to knock it all down. Just keep your sander flat. Don't try to like dig in on a corner or tip it. It cuts faster that way, but it doesn't cut straight, and you'll just get, it'll look like the ocean. Basically not even worth doing. So try to keep your sander flat, move it along evenly across the whole panel, knock it down, then come back through with a sanding block. So I'm gonna knock this down real quick. I got some of the real rough stuff knocked off of here. Then you want to come through with the block. You really want to use the biggest block you can. This is the biggest block that I like to use comfortably. I can control it better. I'm going to have blocks that are, twice the size of this. I just can't control them very easily. But a block that big probably wouldn't hurt in this panel. I'm pretty comfortable I can get it straight enough with this. Take your sanding block, this is just a stick it block, put some stick sandpaper on here. This is 80 grit. I mean, you can use 36 grit if you want to. It leaves really harsh scratches on your surface though. I don't really feel the need to ever use 36 grit unless I'm just hacking something up. I mean, just hacking. And it's just a rough monkey, and it's got about that much body filler on it. I'm basically sculpting at that point. I'm basically carving out a vehicle like they do when they make a prototype. That's when I use rough stuff, but 80 grit's about as rough as you really need to use. Make sure to hold your block. It's because I don't have my collision shirt on. You want to go over the panel in X's. You don't want to stand like that. That's not going to get you anywhere. You can every once in a while up on a body line just to sharpen it up, but you do not want to continue to sand like that. You want to sand at an angle for a little while, and come back through at another angle. So you want to put an X all across your bodywork. That's a good way to ensure it's going to be relatively straight. And you want to move relatively fast over the panel and not put a whole lot of pressure on your block. You don't want to really, I've seen a lot of people like bear down or metal's popping in and out because they're sanding on it so hard. There's no need for any of that. Let your sandpaper cut. Really the only pressure you need to put on your block is to keep it on the panel itself. You don't need to put any more pressure to file off your mud. Your sandpaper will do that. Just hold it up against your panel. So what have you learned over the weekend? Probably nothing actually, because I'm a horrible teacher, and I realize that, okay? So if you're going to judge me on my teaching abilities, literally, that's the word, again. I know I suck at teaching. especially body work, because for me it's just something that's kind of part of my life. So trying to teach somebody how to do it is really tough. So if there's anything I'm leaving out, which I'm sure I am, just ask me in the comments. I'm usually pretty good about getting back to questions in the comments. So anything you want to see more in depth of, I have more work to do on the rest of the car. I do have most of the rust all taken care of on the car now. Rust just sucks. I mean, point blank just sucks. No easy way around that. You just have to cut it out as best as you can. Make a paper template. Go to Home Depot even and buy some 18 gauge steel, which is what this weird looking attempt at pinstriping is painted on, is 18 gauge steel. They sell these sheets for like $7. That's about perfect for welding in on your car. 18 gauge is about as thick as you need. So make a paper template, get the paper to fit perfectly, and then transfer it to metal, cut it out, weld it in. Make sure to weld up the entire seam. Don't put a couple tack welds and then mud over it. Unless you want to. It's your car. I'm not going to judge. No judge zone here in Ticklers garage. Okay? So do that. Fiberglass mud over your patched panels. Don't just regular Bondo body filler over them. Fiberglass is at least waterproof. It's a lot stronger, has a better hold. So make sure to do that instead of just regular mud. Regular mud holds water. It's going to rust out really fast. Chances are it's probably going to rust anyway. Because if you have rust in your car, it's coming back. Almost guaranteed. Dents, pretty straightforward. You push them out if you can. That's easier. If you can't do that, you buy a stud puller and you pull them out. Make sure you have bare metal to weld on the studs before you pull them out. Harbor Freight sells those pullers for about $100. Or you can buy a nice one for like $350, $400. Pulling causes a little more damage to the panel than being able to get to the back and pushing it out. So if you can push, that's the best way to do it. Just be gentle. Metal moves. Bugging my eye. Metal moves pretty easy. So don't get in there with a crowbar and just start wrenching on it, because you got bigger problems then at that point. Be gentle with your steel, okay? It's soft, it's gentle. It doesn't take a whole lot to move. So be easy. Unless you're working on like a 1950 Chevy, then get the biggest hammer you got and heat that sucker up and just both hands, wham! And it'll barely move. So anything 1980 and above, be fairly gentle with your metal. It moves. Make sure if you have a dent, the impact that goes in leaves a crown around the dent. Always. I mean, it's safe to say always. Again, I'm not a scientist, so I can't really study every dent, but I would say it's safe to say always will leave a crown. So when you pull the center of that dent out, tap around the outside to push in that crown while the center of it pops out. A good rule on a dent is first in on a dent will be the last part that you pull out. So think of the impact on the dent. Where it started, that's going to be the deepest part of that dent. You want to start on the outside of that dent and work into the deepest part, whether you're pushing it out from the back or pulling it out from the front. Don't just go for the throat and go right at the deepest point, give her a tug, because it'll stretch. So go easy on it, work the outside first and then go into the deepest part. That'll save you a little bit from your metal distorting more than it needs to. And then you just hack that sucker and pack it full of mud. That's basically body work. I mean, anybody tells you that they're not using mud, they're lying. Or their panels are wavy. I don't care. Maybe if you have 50 years to metal file all of your panels, which you ain't metal filing a 96 Lincoln, ain't happening. So don't be afraid of mud. Get it on there as smooth as you can, but don't worry, it'll block out. If you got too much on there and it's thick, you're just going to spend a little more time sanding. Start with 80 grit, sand in an X pattern. Don't just sand straight. You're going to dig a trench, which ain't good. Sand in an X pattern, and be light with your block. Don't bear down on your block. Be light, sand it, take your time, let the sandpaper cut. Buy good materials too. Don't buy Walmart Bondo. Buy some good materials. Evercoat makes really good mud. I would say some of the best mud out there is Evercoat. And it's really not that expensive. I mean, if you're doing body work and you care about your car, be prepared to spend a few $100s on body work materials. 80 grit. 120 or 180, I would probably just go up to 180. And then 320. Finish all your mud out in 320 grit before you prime it. It's just better. You don't have to really pound on the primer that way. I mean, if you want to pound it on, go for it. But you're going to be spending more on material probably, and you'll have more to sand. So if you can finish it in 320, it leaves less sand scratches, which is good. I mean, you can finish it in 80 if you want to, but you're stupid. Yeah. So I think that's what we learned. That's what I taught you this weekend. Okay. So you teach me something in the comments. I want a full 5-page written story about how to do something interesting. Okay. And I won't take anything less. So if you're not prepared to write me out, at least, okay, if you're not going to do 5 pages, at least a full paragraph, detailed paragraph on how to do something cool. If you're not prepared, don't comment. All right? I don't want you in the comment section wasting space. Like, oh, nice video. Just kidding. I like the nice videos. It boosts up my confidence. Makes me feel better about making videos. So don't be afraid to leave a nice video comment. But yeah, if you got any questions, or if you just want to comment that I suck as a teacher, which is cool too, because I know that. If you got any questions about anything, let me know, and I'll attempt to make some other crappy video that only covers half and leaves out some important stuff. Because that seems like what I do when I'm doing this kind of stuff. I forget to turn the camera on and whatever. So, if you got any questions, let me know. Have I been sitting there this whole time with mud on my nose? Yeah, I have. That's embarrassing. I ain't filming that again.